What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a fun one. We got a top 10 River songs. River has to be in the title of the song, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, patron of the channel, and someone who knows a ton about music, Slade Said. Thank you, Slade Said. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. Patrons make this thing go. We're coming up on 2,500 videos. Can never do it without them. All right, let's jump into this. Slade Said, for my August list, because it's August of 2023 when I'm filming this, I tried to do a top 10 list of rock songs with the word river in the title. It turned out to be a difficult list to make. Not because I had to search for songs in order to just find 10 contenders. No, quite the opposite. In fact, river seems to be a word that almost automatically elevates the song to a higher level. And it was a serious challenge to narrow the list down to only 10, as I had to leave out so many good songs. As an example, I love River Euphrates by Pixies, but no, that didn't make the cut. And I could mention a lot of other songs that some will wonder why wasn't included, but yeah, this was a tricky one. I will say up front that my number one on the list will very likely be the least loved by a lot of viewers of this channel, and definitely not a song a lot of people will have heard before, or even heard of the band. On the flip side, numbers 2 and 3 on the list would probably be the obvious number one for most people, so I'm not against popular songs at all or trying to make a bizarre statement. It just so happens that one of my all-time favorite bands is a rather obscure band which is never featured on this channel, not even on any of my lists, and one of my favorite songs by the band includes the word river. Okay, with that small spoiler alert, let's get into it, Slade says. So the music will not be in the video, but it will be a Vimeo link below, so click on that link and follow along with us. All right, well, you already know what number 10 is because I have had it up during my intro. We got River Towns by the great Mark Knopfler, not a stranger around here either for his solo stuff or his great work with Dire Straits, off his 2015 album, Tracker. Slade said the first song on this list is the song River Towns from former Dire Straits MVP Mark Knopfler. After the band disbanded in 1993, Mark launched a solo career with a bit more roots focus than what Dire Straits did, certainly in their later years. And to me, the output has been rather hit or miss, but occasionally he has delivered high quality, such as the song selected here, which is reminiscent of old school Dire Straits. I found it was inspired by the short story A Room Forever by the late American writer Brees DJ Pancake, who published only a few works before his suicide in 1979 at the age of 26. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Slade Said. River Towns. Really enjoyed the arrangement. It worked perfect with the song itself. I mean, Mark's talking about river towns, right? He's working on the river, and all the river towns are kind of the same. I came in 3 days early to meet my boat, so he's in the river town. Ain't the life of Riley, which just means it's not, my life is not where I have no hardship, right? But it's keeping me afloat. It's quiet over Christmas, so it kind of sets a tone. It's Christmas, so probably everybody's with their families. It's quiet around here, which just lends further to his isolation, kind of where he is. If you got no place to go, I got my home from River Rat, the only home I know. So he's at a flop house, gets a beer, gets a bottle of whiskey, does maybe a little bit of gambling, and then he sees a girl, a lady of the evening, and they are together, and asked her what she'd like to say. She was down my stairs so quick, I never asked what got her started with the sorry river tricks. So I get the bottle open, but something's hit a nerve, and I'm looking in the mirror at the face that I deserve, River Towns. And so, yeah, I mean, that song was great. I mean, Mark's a really, really good songwriter. I don't ever really see him get a lot of credit for that. I mean, he wrote a lot of great songs, and he really knows how to weave an epic and kind of draw you into it. So great choice for number 10. Next up at number 9, you got the great R.E.M. Find the River from Automatic for the People in 1992. Many people believe that is their best album, and some people think it's the best album of the 90s. Slade said our next song on the list is a somewhat underappreciated song by one of the biggest rock bands in history. The final song on what is likely the album most people pick as their number one. Also mine, he says, although it's a battle between this album, Reckoning, and New Adventures in High Five. Well, I know that Sean prefers Murmur, which I was about to say. While the song was never a hit and probably is just considered an album track that you listen to when listening to the whole album, and there's much more than that. It's a hidden gem. I found it was released as the 6th and final single, went to 54 in the UK, didn't chart in the US. I mean, going to the well a few too many times, right? 6 singles is a lot. It was one of only 3 R.E.M. singles released in the 1990s out of a total of 24 to not make the top 40 in the UK. Regarding the song's backing vocals, Mike Mills explained to Melody Maker, quote, Harbor Coat from Reckoning has got me and Michael and Bill all doing completely unrelated things, and yet it works together. Because of the production we insisted on from Mitch and Don, which I know must have been incredibly frustrating for them, it's hard to pick out exactly what's going on. We tried it again on Find the River. I had the idea that Bill and I would go in and do some harmonies without listening to each other. It's great because mine is this incredibly angst-ridden emotional thing, and Bill's is this real low-key sort of ambling part. They're two opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both on there, and it's a beautiful thing. In the 1992 review of the album, Rolling Stone writer Paul Evans said, R.E.M. has never made music more gorgeous than Find the River, calling it a masterpiece. So, wow. All right. I mean, I know this album, but I can't recall the song off the top of my head. I'm sure I will once I hear it. Find the River. What a gorgeous song. I mean, I know I've heard this song several, I just don't really remember it now. I see the beauty of it. I think, Automatic for the People is a pretty long album. And I think by the time you get to the end of it, unfortunately, sometimes you're just kind of fatigued. And I've documented several times on this channel. I did not like R.E.M. when I was younger. Now I absolutely love them. But it's kind of talking about Michael's older and he's going towards death, right? The river, I think, is life, and the ocean is whatever you believe is after death. I believe it's heaven, but whatever you believe is after death. And he's kind of telling the people in the first verse, you're younger and you got your whole life. Don't be shy, you're just dessert. There's only just light years to go, so you're young, right? And then he's talking in chorus one, kind of how he's getting older. And in verse 2, the ocean is the river's goal. I need to leave the water knows we're now closer now than light years to go. I've got to find the river, leave the road and memorize this life that passed before my eyes, and nothing is going my way, because he's heading towards death, but he's still going down that river and enjoying life. So at the very end, strength and courage overrides the privilege and weary eyes. A river poet search naivety. Pick up here and chase the ride. The river empties to the tide. All of this coming your way. We're all in this together. We're all going to live and we're all going to die. So a really, really just beautiful song. Next up at number 8, we got Down by the River by Julia Mosley Band from Illuminate the Night in 2020. Slade said, following two very big names within rock, we go to the absolute opposite. The song selected here was on another top 10 on this channel where I had it on a top 10 list for obscure rock artists. And it deserves a spot in the sunlight again, as it's truly a song with a remarkable performance by Julia on the vocals. Julia Mosley will be releasing a new album very soon. It may even be out by the time you watch this video. Down by the River, Julia Mosley Band. Julia is just a powerhouse, right? Her vocals are amazing. The power, wow. So that was absolutely awesome. I do vaguely remember it, but I mean, I listen to so much music and you listen to them in the context of a top 10, and then sometimes you just don't ever come across them again. So I really appreciate Slade said bringing, the guitar work on there, just everything. That's a 5-minute song that seemed like a 2.5-minute song in the very best way. Next up, we have the Walkabouts, Drag This River from New West Motel in 1993. Slade said Seattle-based the Walkabouts are virtually as unknown in the U.S. as Julia Mosley, but luckily they had a decent following in Europe during their career, which included 11 studio albums between 1987 and 2011. On the 1993 album, this one, New West Hotel, their fourth album, we find the song Drag This River, an up-tempo song with Carla Torgerson on lead vocals. I did a top 10 list of the Walkabouts for Slade said almost 2 years ago. Fantastic list. Go check it out after this. Drag This River. Fantastic songwriter on here. Don't mess with Carla, right? Obviously, the instrumentation, the arrangement, the guitar work is fantastic. She's basically, drag this river for the body. She's telling this guy, don't come back don't threaten her, all these different things, right? And if you walk out that door, silence greets you. Silence will be yours. I hear you calling from a long distance shore, but you won't come back. Well, because you can't come back. The water's rising and the levee is not sure, and you won't be found. No, you can't be found. Drag this river down. Wow. That's a powerful song. It's really, really well done. Next up, we have the great PJ Harvey. The River from the album Is This Desire from 1998. So I said we continue with the female singers as PJ Harvey is our next pick. It's a great haunting song and one of my favorite PJ Harvey songs. I found the lyrics of this song are almost entirely paraphrased or quoted verbatim from the Flannery O'Connor short story, The River, about a young boy whose parents send him off with a babysitter who takes him to a revival meeting at the river to be baptized. We got quite a few PJ Harvey reactions up. She's fantastic. All right, The River, well done song. I mean, now that I understand what it's about, it's about going down to be baptized. I'm a Christian, so yeah, I get the plays on the words here. And just, you really feel PJ's, seriousness to it, drama to it, not in a bad way, right? You just feel the seriousness of the song and the arrangement and everything too, even in the instrumental in the middle, and then she comes back in. You just, PJ's a unique talent, man. I super enjoy her. There's almost a darkness to the song, even though I guess seriousness is more the word, but really darkness kind of describes it. even though what's happening is definitely not a dark thing. But PJ will write about some stuff and take some stuff in every which direction, man. Really, really underrated artist that I really recommend everybody check out. And next up, you see a boy, The River People from Robert Forster from Danger in the Past album in 1990. Former The Go-Betweens frontman, well, one of two, Robert Forster, released his first solo album, Danger in the Past, in 1990. And to me, this is still his best release as a solo artist. This song has also been covered by the Walkabouts, a little tie-in to the group that is number 7 on this list. And we do have a top 10 list up that we did all the way back over 2.5 years ago of the Go-Betweens, brought to us by our patron, Frank. All right, The River People. I love Robert's voice. The acoustic work on there is fantastic. It just draws you in, right? I could listen to him sing like that for an hour. Just fantastic. I'm not exactly sure the meaning of the song, and I'm studying those lyrics. Maybe that the River People are not really in the worrying about being popular or worldly things, so they can kind of spot fakes from a mile away. But I could be wrong about that. I see this was produced by the great Mick Harvey from many things, but from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, who are become one of my favorites. So just well done. All right, we got to go off Spotify for this next one. We have The River That Runs With Love Won't Run Dry by Swans from the Burning World in 1989. So it said Swans, the ultimate providers of dark and depressive rock, recorded a song with the title The River That Runs With Love Won't Run Dry. That sounds incredibly positive and totally unlike Swans. Fear not, though. The lyrics are not just peace, love, and understanding. Having said that, the song is included on their 1989 album, as I mentioned, The Burning World, which was the band's first and only major label release. Produced by Bill Laswell, the sound is vastly different to what Swans have been doing before this album, and Swans MVP Michael Jarrah himself hates the album. It has jokingly been dubbed their, quote, Roger Whittaker album, since it's a total departure from the doom rock they had previously done, and lovely melodies and lyrics, which are not all ultra dark, make up the album. To me, this is a great album, so I'd said, and extremely underrated by the Swans devotees as well as Michael himself. It's definitely the only album that stands any chance of mainstream acceptance, and the song picked here is a very good example of that. I found that you have actually reacted to the song a couple of years ago. I did, so it'll be interesting to see if your opinion on it is the same as back then. I did this for one of our supporters, Deep Blue. I don't really remember it. I'm guessing maybe I didn't like it by what Slade said. Mentions here, Swans are very hot and cold for me, but I mean, my musical taste has evolved as it always does. Listen to this much music, so let's check it out. All right, Swans, the river that runs with love won't run dry. I actually like that, so I'm guessing I didn't last time. I didn't go back and watch the reaction, but I vibe definitely with the arrangement. I enjoyed it. Michael Jarrah, his voice, it's fine. It works for these types of songs. I don't know why he didn't like this, but the chorus, even with the la 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 la, and then the river runs with love. It runs with love. It won't run dry. So he's kind of talking about, I think basically, no matter what else happens, as long as you have love, it's going to be all right. Because of the last chorus, then goes into hold on to the one you love and kiss her before she dies. Oh, the river that runs with love, it won't run dry. Well, my father made the water when he cried, but the river that runs with love, it won't run dry. And the sun will burn a hole in the purple sky, but the river that runs with love, it won't run dry. I mean, that song's kind of going through my head, so that's something for a Swan song. So, yeah, good choice. All right, we're in rarefied air now. The top 3, you see it below, The River from Bruce Springsteen from the River album in 1980. Slade said the next pick is most likely the number 1 for a lot of viewers on this channel, and I wouldn't argue against it. The River is one of Bruce Springsteen's most iconic songs, and I just watched him perform it live, and it was as good as ever as he was. Ditto, man. We saw him in concert back in February. There's not a lot to say about the song that has already been said, so I'll leave it at that. In his first live, I found, his first live performance of this song back in 1979 before the album even came out. Bruce cited the inspiration as my brother-in-law and my sister. In the 2012 biography, Bruce, by Peter Ames Carlin, includes an interview with Springsteen's sister, Jenny, in which she plainly states that the song is a precise description of her early life with her husband, Mickey, to whom she is still married. And then Bruce said in his own autobiography in 2016, he did write it for her and her husband. Look, if you watch this channel a lot, you know that this man is my favorite all-time solo artist. I love Bruce. We have a review up of The River. I also have album rankings of The River, the songs on here, and the song is fantastic. The River. I could say a lot about this song, but as Slade said, what hasn't been said. So I'll kind of leave it there. I'll say a couple things on this. I think the arrangement's fantastic, but I think Bruce's voice is fantastic on this. Very clear, very enunciated. Like, he just sounds fantastic. And I mean, you kind of feel maybe a little different emotion from him because he is singing it about his sister and his brother-in-law. I mean, maybe I'm just reading that into that, but this album's fantastic. Go check it out if you haven't already, and a wonderful pick for number 3. All right, we got to go off of Spotify for number 2. We got Down by the River by Neil Young from Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Of course, Neil does not have his music on Spotify, so that's why we're going off Spotify. So I said if the previous song was the one 50% of the audience of this run through would pick as their number 1, I can imagine that the other 50% would pick this song. It's a fantastic song with all the good things from Neil combined into one. It's easily a top 5 song by him to me. And again, for those ranking this as number 1, I 100% understand that. It's 9 minutes and 18 seconds long, but it's not a second too long. What a treat. Now, Neil explained the context of the story in the liner notes of his 1977 anthology album, Decade, stating that he wrote it while delirious in Topanga Canyon with 103 fever. Now, he wrote a couple other songs for this album too. He also gave some different explanations. I always just like to put these in these because they're always interesting. The lyrics tell the story of someone who killed his lover by shooting her after feeling unable to continue from the emotional highs of their relationship. Young has provided multiple explanations for the lyrics. In an interview with Robert Greenfield in 1970, so a little bit after the album came out, a year after the song was released, Young claimed that, quote, "There's no real murder in it. It's about blowing your thing with a chick. It's a plea, a desperate cry." But later on, when introducing the song in New Orleans in September of 1984, so a long time later, he said the song depicts a man who, quote, had a lot of trouble controlling himself, who catches his woman cheating on him, then meets her down by the river and shoots her. According to Young, the local sheriff comes to this man's house and arrests him a few hours later. So who knows? You'll find this in a lot of older artists. They give all kinds of explanations over the years for their songs. But yeah, this song is great. All right, Down by the River. Just a fantastic song. It's weird, right? Because you want to sing that Down by the River, but then it's I Shot My Baby. And it's like, it's weird to sing that, right? I don't really sing that in the chord. Down by the river, I shot my baby, the way they do it. Obviously, the electric guitar work on here with Neil and the great Danny Whitten is just next level, man. That's what really puts the song over. But I mean, the chorus and the way it's sung is so well done. Ralph Molina on the drums, Billy Talbot on the bass. But it's a guitar that's a superstar of this, and great songwriting and performance by Neil. But a worthy choice at number 2, no doubt. And at number 1, we have The River by No Means No from the album Why Do They Call Me Mr. Happy in 1993. Slade said, and with that, we finally make it to number 1 on my list. And like I said, this is a pretty obscure pick, certainly compared to the 2 previous ones. So No Means No, who on earth are they? Well, they were a Canadian punk rock / art rock band that blended jazz and prog rock into the mix, creating a very unique sound. They were mostly a trio, guitar, bass, and drums, but the spine of the band was the Wright brothers, Rob on bass and lead vocals, and John on drums. And they began as a drum and bass duo and only added a guitarist, Andy Kerr at first, later replaced by Tom Hollison after their first album. Their lyrics are often either philosophical or very discreet, typically with an ironic or sarcastic twist, and they can appear very offensive to the listeners if you don't get the humor or the sarcasm, which is a major reason why I haven't picked them before, apart from their style of music, which often doesn't fit into the list I made. On this album, they were actually a duo, as Andy Kerr had just left the band and Tom Hollison wouldn't appear until the next album. So Rob did all the guitars as well as the bass and drums. Rob is a phenomenal bass player, but John Wright on drums is absolutely his equal. So the rhythm section of this band was second to none, especially within punk rock, where this level of musicianship was unheard of. Side note, Trey actually had their 1989 album Wrong on his top 5 list of that year. We did an album draft series last year, every album. Every year, 1965 through 2022, Trey and I each picked our own top 5 albums from those years. So there's a video up for each year, or a combined top 10. So I did not remember that Trey had picked these guys. So wow. Slade said, let me in on a little secret. He said, oh, and my Nick, Slade said, is actually based on a No Means No song. What Slade says. So I finally know what it means. And while you see it below on Spotify, it's actually a re-recording of the song. So I just have it below so you know what the song is. We're going to listen to a YouTube version. All right, The River, No Means No. What a power. The drumming on here by John is fantastic. I mean, the guitar work and everything else by Rob is fantastic as well. But I mean, what a performance, man. The longer this song went on, the more I dug it, man. So I wanted to check out more from these guys. At first, I'm like, I don't know, right? And then the longer it went on, the more I liked it. But the musicianship is fantastic. And the song itself, it was basically, he's going on his way to die, or he is dead. And he's trying to help other people, but he's like, I'd like to help you, but I can't because I'm already dead. And kind of telling you you're born and, to a hard life, and you're gonna die. So you might as well tell your kids that towards the end. He's like, mothers, tell your children the truth. Don't hide the fate that's waiting. When you're born, you start to drown. There is no help, no safety, right? When you're born, you start to experience hardship in your life from the second you're born and are crying and all that stuff. So, yeah, well done. So that is going to bring me to my faves. Slade Said's list, always difficult to pick faves on because he always does such a good job on this. Honorable mentions, we're going to go with Down by the River by Julia Mosley Band, Drag This River by the Walkabouts, and this last song, The River by No Means No. Faves, Mark Knopfler, River Towns, first song. Really enjoyed the story on that one. And then, of course, Down by the River by Neil Young and The River by Bruce Springsteen. I know those are not out-of-the-box faves, but hey, man, I always tell it like it is here. So appreciate Slade Said taking on this difficult task of picking river songs, where you got to have an insane music knowledge to be able to do this, pick something like this. So, and Slade Said always picks fantastic stuff. So thank you for that. Tell me your faves down below. What else do you wish was in here? What other river songs? I know there's a ton of them. They can't all be in the top 10, right? Just keep that in mind. But let me know what else you thought should have been in this list or your favorite river songs. And until next time, guys, I will see you.